Welcome to the Pitcher Nail Down. I'm Jason Gilbo at JGilbo11. With me is Russell Clay at Russell J. Clay. Taking a look at pitching for FanDuel and DraftKings tonight. And a lot of top arms going. You got guys like Scherzer, Hamels, Cueto, Pomeranz, all pitching for their teams and all in decent spots. So there's really a lot of options up top.
Certainly. I think it's just, you pick out who you like the most, but there are certainly quite a few very exciting options for tonight.
Yeah, it definitely is. And this first one here, you got Nationals and Phillies, Max Scherzer versus Strad Eichhoff. And obviously Scherzer is one of the top arms on the slate in this matchup against Philly. For me, I think he's a little bit easier to fit in on FanDuel at 11-2. Whenever you're getting over that 13K mark, it's obviously kind of tough. And with the lack of value options on DraftKings, you can kind of make a case for using some other arms as well.
So early on in the season, you were like, Russ, you can't ever project someone for 40 DK points in the start. And I was like, yeah, no, I agree. That's all I'm saying here.
So you're projecting him for 40 points?
That's all I'm saying here. We're moving on. No, so in his last 4 starts, he's gone over 31. Or 3 of his last 5, he's gone over 31 with over 10 strikeouts. Obviously, coming off that huge game against the Orioles, 2 hits, 10 strikeouts. I don't see how the Phillies, I don't see how they just stop any of this. This is like the boulders are coming down on them and they're just going to get smushed is kind of how I see this.
Oh, no, I don't either. I could certainly see 8+ strikeouts, 7 innings. Definitely going to pick up a win. He's one of the elite options. Whenever you're just getting over 13K, it's like, okay.
I just see a lot of dribblers to the shortstop and strikeouts, like in 8-pitch innings. That's just what I see tonight. I don't see. So while I agree with you that 13-6 is very ridiculous, I want exposure still.
Yeah. No, I definitely do too. He's obviously a guy who's playable in all formats. It's just about basically working him in with someone else. That's
right.
My issue in trying to get bats that I want. So right. FanDuel definitely much more reasonable to kind of go in and work in bats. DraftKings gonna have to put in some effort.
It's gonna hurt, that's for sure. But I think 7 out of 10 times he'll get, honestly in that 35 area.
Yeah,
against this Phillies offense, that's just what I think,
Yeah, I think that's certainly an option tonight. And on the other side, Eichhoff, not a guy who I'm really looking to use. Given he struggles with lefties, and you're putting Murphy and Harper in the middle of that lineup who are cruising right now, and obviously you still have Worth and Turner and Rendon who are all hitting the ball well. Just a lineup to really kind of stay away. There isn't really a ton of upside or any real shot at kind of having a dominant start.
Right.
Blue Jays and Orioles next here. J. Happ versus Ubaldo Jimenez. Obviously, J. Happ has been one of the better pitchers. He's a guy who obviously just, for me, I've never kind of liked the price. It is cheaper than what we've seen him in the past. Decent matchup. Baltimore really isn't that great against lefties, but obviously still a poor park to hit in or to pitch in. But obviously he still pitches at the Rogers Center. So, I don't know. I'm okay in the GPP with him. I don't think he's quite cash for me, but we have seen lefties against this Baltimore team do quite well, especially in the strikeout department.
Well, that's what I was going to say. This is a good high upside matchup, but there's also downside with this lineup, especially with Happ sort of, not necessarily being Max Scherzer out there. So in terms of some of the pitching tonight, he's certainly much more volatile than the rest of those. So even though it is a slight pay down off the top options, still just tournaments for me.
Yeah, and I think he's not even FanDuel, he's really out of play at 9,300 when you got Pomeranz, who's 9K less, and when you can kind of go up to those other options pretty easily.
Right.
DraftKings, it is a pay down. I just wish it was kind of maybe a little bit more. I see myself kind of either going over him or just kind of paying up at this point.
Right.
On the other side, Ubaldo Jimenez, never a guy you really want to roster. Yeah.
Rays Red Sox.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ubaldo.
Drew Pomeranz, Jake Odorizzi, Red Sox -177 favorites.
Mm,
Pomeranz obviously a step down from Scherzer. Obviously in his last start, he faced the Rays and threw a solid outing.
mm.
11 strikeouts over 6 innings. Didn't get the win. Just 2 earned runs. I like him a lot here again. I mean, you look at this Rays offense, I mean, who used to be good against lefties, but now, I mean, bottom 10 at WOBA, 25% strikeout rate. And Pomeranz has kind of settled down in Boston. He's been pitching well.
Yeah, kind of exciting. So I think he's certainly in play. Again, I know this is a good matchup. I still don't like him nearly as much as Scherzer or, even I like Cueto tonight quite a bit. We'll get into that later, but I just like those options better and even a few others. So it is a good matchup, just tournaments for me. Certainly okay with you guys getting exposure, but I think I like other options tonight.
Yeah, it's certainly fair. I mean, obviously, we're looking at Pomeranz, and his consistency has been a little bit up and down still in Boston. But I mean, you got to go back to about a month ago when he gave up more than 2 earned runs. So he's certainly kind of coming
Yeah.
into his range here.
Right, and I don't think that like that efficiency or ineffectiveness and inconsistency really is coming into play for me. It's more just okay. 11-6 is a lot, and I like these other matchups better. I'm actually pretty comfortable with him going forward. Seems like he's kind of got it under control.
Yeah, definitely. And Odorizzi on the other side, I'm not really looking to use him.
No,
Um,
I don't like that. I don't like that FanDuel price.
No, I don't either. I mean that's up there, and I mean really overall, I think he's just kind of out of play tonight. I mean this Boston team is hitting the ball well. He does struggle with right-handed bats and does struggle with power, and obviously there are still a couple righties that can get to him, like Betts, like Hanley, and obviously Ortiz and those types of guys you worry about anyway.
Yep, absolutely.
Tigers and White Sox next year. Daniel Norris versus Anthony Renuato. For me, Norris is kind of an intriguing GPP option as far as a cheap guy goes, and more so on DraftKings as an SP2. This White Sox offense, not good against, lefties. I mean, they're pretty middle of the road, 22% strikeout rate. Obviously, you still have some bats to worry about, but I don't know. I mean, because we lack a lot of cheap options as far as SP2s go on DraftKings and tournaments, I could see Norris having a decent start, but obviously there still is some downside.
Certainly. I agree with him being a tournament play, especially with sort of the limited options in that range tonight. Mostly probably want to limit exposure. That might be something you kind of work yourself into with a Scherzer, if you're paying that much, you probably want to look at a guy like him for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely who I see paying him with. I mean, I
Yeah.
think it's making a lineup where there's two cheap pitchers just seems so inoptimal tonight. I don't see it happening. So,
Right. And yeah, I mean, even with a Pomeranz or a Cueto, I don't necessarily think you need to do Norris, but with Scherzer, you're going to have to figure something like this out for sure.
yeah, definitely. So overall, I mean, he's a guy who I could definitely see getting the 20 DK points.
Hmm.
And I don't think, I mean, there is a little bit of blow potential still, but obviously, I think that 15 range is where I kind of see him tonight.
Right.
So on the other side, I mean, Anthony Renuato is the guy who you can really stack against, and the guy you just really don't use at all ever. It's simple.
The poor White Sox secondary pitching options. Chris Sale's got to have a talk with them, man. It's getting bad out there. That's all. Go ahead.
Between Renuato and Shields, yeah. I mean, it's like at least you got Rodon who's doing well. You got Quintana behind him, but yeah, the 4 and 5 are just
clean it up. Clean
days.
it up. Yeah.
Twins and Indians next here. Josh Tomlin versus Andrew Albers, and this one for me, I don't really want to have any part of. Obviously, Tomlin's a decent home favorite. Is a cheap guy. I don't know. I can never just get behind using him, and he's been a guy who's been bad. I mean, finally kind of hitting that regression. It took a while, but it's happening.
It took a while, but it's hitting hard now. I mean, you just look back a month ago how different things were. He was getting, 15 to 20 DK points a game, and it's just gone. I certainly don't think he's a trustable option right now. I don't know what to do with this Twins lineup against righties right now. But overall, I just can't trust Tomlin. I don't think you can make that move right now.
No, I mean, 7 home runs allowed in his last 3 starts. Obviously, Texas, Toronto, and Boston, tough matchups, but you even look before. I mean, Yankees, Washington, those types of matchups are kind of what you look at and still go, all right, Twins offense has been better in the second half. They're not quite the easy bottom 5 offense to
Mhm.
target anymore. So it's like, and you look at Tomlin. I mean, he's allowed 5 homers. In 3 starts against the Twins this season. So
Right.
with their power, I do worry a bit here.
Yep. Agreed.
Albers is another guy on the other side who I don't like to touch. Indians' offenses has been kind of you know below average of late. I mean, they haven't really been performing well. Last night was a night where we expected them to kind of come through. Here, I do. I mean, Albers really isn't the guy who I'm looking to use. I think you can actually go back to the Indians and kind of hope that people are off of them.
Yeah, and again, I think we go back for Napoli. I'm not worried about a few down games against lefties. I think we're firing away with him again. In cash. So yeah, not using Albers.
No. Marlins and Mets next here. Seth Lugo versus Tom Kohler. Obviously, 2 cheap arms. As far as Kohler goes, I mean, he's been a guy who is in the middle of a nice stretch. Had a really nice stretch kind of earlier on, but against this Mets offense, I mean, obviously the matchup on paper looks pretty solid. Um, Away from home, he's a little bit worse than he is at home, so I'm kind of concerned there. And I have a worry that he kind of might be fading back out in terms of upside.
Yeah, this is one you kind of look at and end up talking yourself off of. Obviously had that really nice stretch about a month ago, kind of fallen off the last few games. I don't know that this Mets offense with everyone in the lineup is one you really want to mess with right now with a mediocre arm. So overall, I think you can think about it, but ultimately I'm probably fading this.
Yeah, I am too. And on the other side, I mean, Seth Lugo, I mean, obviously he's kind of been the cheap talk of the town. I mean, he's coming off a decent start against St. Louis, pitched okay against San Francisco. Obviously for 4,100 against this Miami offense that really isn't that great at this point. Sure, you can maybe take a look at in a GBP, and if you want to pair him with the Scherzer, you can go for it.
Yeah.
But obviously know that there is some risk.
Yeah, it's certainly some risk, but 4K, if you do want to do that and get an expensive stack with a top arm on DK, sure. Obviously, FanDuel, not going to happen.
No, I don't think I can use him on a night where there's so much pitching, but I mean,
Right.
he's missing bats, 10.1% swing strike rate, ground ball rate's fairly average, 2.73 FIP, obviously over a low sample size, but I mean, he's shown the ability to go through and against decent offenses. So
Mhm.
I'm okay with it as SP2 and GPPs.
Yep.
Next year, you got the Braves and Padres, Julio Teheran versus Edwin Jackson. Edwin Jackson, for me, is a guy who finally, I mean, after a couple good starts there, when he came back blowing up over his last 2, it's what you expect from Jackson. And this Braves offense, I mean, has been very solid in the second half. I mean, middle of the road is obviously good for them in consideration for what they did in the first half. Yeah, I don't think you can use Jackson here. I think he's an easy fade.
Yeah, give me that 135 stack for the Braves, and we'll swing away with that. I'm pretty comfortable. In terms of terrain, though, I kind of like this. I haven't looked at him in a while. Obviously regressed a little off what we saw early in the year, but I actually think this is a night where we can look to target him again and feel pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, you look here at late. I mean, obviously he hasn't been over, 10 DK points in his last 3 starts, but this is obviously a matchup where you certainly can, especially with that strikeout rate for the Padres. I mean, near 25%. And I like the FanDuel price. I mean, 7,800. I feel like there's a lot of upside for that price tag right there. If I want to make a swerve down to a cheap pitcher, Terrian's kind of my guy that I'm looking to do that with.
The DraftKings price is a little peculiar at 9,800 with what he's sort of done, but I mean, I still think it's an option there in a contrarian tournament way. Not using him in cash, especially with what he's done, but I think you should take a very strong look in tournaments for sure.
No, I definitely agree with you. Pirates and Cubs next year. Kyle Hendricks versus Chad Kuhl. Hendricks has been kind of one of the more consistent options, but I think his price really kind of just outweighs him here. I mean, I do like him. I do like what he's done of late. A decent matchup against the Pirates. I certainly can see the upside. Still a contrarian move off of some of the top options. I'm not going to rule him out of play. Not quite sure how much exposure I'm going to have to him. I think he's more in play on FanDuel at 9,300. But as far as DraftKings go, I think he's just a little bit overpriced. And it's more just because we have Cueto, we have Pomeranz, we have Scherzer just kind of sitting right there.
I wish we could have gotten Terrain and Hendricks a few days ago when we were struggling along with that slate.
Sunday.
The one where I literally said this took a few months off my life. But yeah, I like Hendricks tonight. I like this matchup, but I agree on especially on DK. That's just a lot. I think you could definitely get weird with a Terrain Hendricks lineup in a tournament, but it's certainly just that, you know.
Yeah, I think it's just more of a weird tournament pivot off of because he's going to be low owned. I don't see a ton of ownership for him really on both sides because of the pricing, because of the other options. So, big favorite there. I mean, Pirates offense against righties. Obviously, we saw them come alive last night, but overall, still bottom 10, 21% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching. So, it's not the matchup; it's just more the price.
Right.
Chad Kuhl on the other side. Cubs offense hasn't been too hot, but Kuhl's not a guy who I'm looking to use.
No, I'm all set with that.
Yeah. James Paxton, Cole Hamels, two lefties going here. I wish this game was in Safeco. I feel a little bit better about targeting these pitchers. But obviously, I mean, both these teams against lefties are kind of mediocre. I mean, they also both kind of average to a slightly above average strikeout rate. So I can make a case for more Hamels here. Because obviously you are taking a lot of those lefties out of play, like Cano and Seager, and Cruz and Gutierrez have kind of been up and down late. So I don't mind Hamels in a GPP format, but his numbers at home have been a little bit rough for that on the road this year.
I agree. I think I'm more into Hamels than you are. I love this matchup. After what he did to the Indians, you know, obviously Indians struggle against lefties anyway, but after that start, I mean, he had another good one after that. I think this is a good matchup. I like him quite a bit. I'd say he's borderline cash for me. There are, you know, this slate's tough to fit into cash, especially at 11.5. So I won't say he's like your only cash option, but I certainly think he's in play. I'm not too afraid of this Mariners offense in this matchup.
No, I'm not either. I mean, we saw the Mariners offense against three lefties in Chicago that really struggled against all three of them, Rodon, Quintana, and Sale. And obviously Hamels, you know, more closer to a Sale, you know, type level. Decent favorite there. I mean, I'm certainly okay with it. I mean, Mariners projected for under 4 runs. I can definitely see why the cash game appeal is there.
Right.
So, yeah, Hamels, you know, one of those top options that we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of Paxton, I don't mind it, especially, you know, for the price. He certainly does have some tournament upside, like quite a few guys on this slate. But if you are looking for a pay down, I could definitely see a reasonable range of outcomes for him. But overall, you know, I even though they haven't been playing well, I don't like going at this Rangers offense. I don't know. It just seems like they're so stacked. I know the results haven't been there. They make me feel uncomfortable, you know?
Yeah. So maybe, I mean, is Paxton one of the guys who's been good enough to kind of keep you from going all in on Texas?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that being the case. I mean, that's probably going to be the case for me too, where I don't get a ton of exposure to the Rangers. But Paxton's a guy who I might keep in my back end for a deep tournament lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing more than that. He's not going to make it into my first 10.
No, certainly not.
So, Astros and A's here next. Kendall Graveman versus Colin McHugh. McHugh here, obviously, you know, he looks strictly a Vegas minus 170 favorite. They're at home. A's projected for under 4 runs, right around 3.5. I can't trust it as far as a cheap guy goes. In tournaments, sure. But I feel like people might roll him out as an SB2 in cash, and I just feel so hesitant in doing that.
Oh, no, don't do that. But I won't lie and say it's not intriguing to me. Righties versus the A's just in general is intriguing. McHugh has been borderline bad in some of these starts. And by borderline, I mean he's been bad in some of these starts. So certainly want to, you know, hedge with that. But I could see, you know, throwing in one tournament lineup and being like, oh, okay, you got 15. I'm happy with that, you know.
Yeah, and I think because he's 6K on DraftKings, I mean, I'm not looking at him on FanDuel. I think
No.
he's out there, but yeah, 6K on DraftKings as an SP2 in tournaments, I'm okay with. And as much as you want to like it for cheap, and as much as you probably want to get some bats elsewhere, it's like, oh man, is it really necessary to take that dive into McHugh? Who even against the A's, I just don't feel comfortable with. In cash, it's just a little uneasy for me.
Definitely agree there. In a tournament though, Paxton on DK at 8K or McHugh at 6.
I'll roll the dice in McHugh for 2K less.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Depending on, how the roster construction ends up, but
Yeah, certainly. And as far as Kendall Graven goes on the other side, he's a guy who, I mean, outside the Seattle start, really hasn't been that bad. He's had a couple down starts, obviously, but I think, obviously, I'm just kind of saying, don't really use him. But I mean, maybe keep an eye on him in the future because he is improving a little bit here over the second half.
Definitely.
So. Next one, you got here the Brewers and Cardinals. Adam Wainwright versus Willie Peralta. Obviously, we saw last night Carlos Martinez dominate the Brewers as he has in all of his starts this year with that major strikeout upside. I think you want to look at Wainwright and go, oh, he has some strikeout upside here against the Brewers, which sure he does. I worry about Wainwright on the road at this point and his consistency. I mean, he just hasn't been a good play away from home. Did pitch well against Milwaukee earlier this year. But I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of off of him here. Over a 6 ERA on the road in this ballpark, I'm a little concerned.
I feel like I'm getting something, Three Stooges related if I throw Wainwright into one of my lineups and someone's going to smack me in the back of the head, 2 innings into a start when he's given up 3 earned already. I feel like my life's going to go black and white and that music's going to start playing and it's just going to – I just don't want to do this, but I'm probably gonna. And then
I mean, I like the appeal of the strikeout upside. I like Milwaukee. I mean, 25% strikeout rate against righties. And I'm not necessarily using Milwaukee against him, but I don't know, man. I mean, Wainwright's just one of those guys who's just been so hot and cold this year. And right now he just looks like he's one of those stretches where, he was facing decent offenses to kind of go up against. I mean, obviously the Cubs blow up was something that you could have seen, but should have had a decent time at home against the Mets. Should have had a better start than he did against the Phillies. Braves, he got shelled. So it's kind of like, I don't know, man. I can't do it to myself.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think I can either. I love this matchup. I mean, who wouldn't? But I'm not going to say don't do it, but I'm not. So you probably shouldn't. So there it is.
No, I don't think so either. I think I'm going to put in myself that I'm 99.5% fading.
All right. So if you play, 200 lineups, you might have one in there. Is what you're saying. That's what. Gotcha.
That's what I'm saying. On the other side here, Willie Peralta, never a guy who I'm looking to use, even though he's been actually fairly serviceable since coming back from the minors. I'll pass at home against the Cardinals.
Yeah, all set with that. Thanks.
Yankees and Royals next year. Masahiro Tanaka versus Edison Volquez. Tanaka's a guy who I think is a kind of an interesting pivot. I mean, he's been pitching really well of late. Obviously, this Royals offense against right-handed pitching, bottom 5 in WOBA, 20% strikeout rate. Kauffman Stadium, a really solid place to pitch in. Tanaka's an interesting swerve off of kind of some of those other guys there.
Certainly, he's definitely a swerve, and I kind of like it. Royals obviously stingy, but not a good offense at this stage in the season. I think we can kind of, they're at least below average. So I like this matchup for Tanaka. I think he's a pretty safe option, even at his price. So I just see 20 DK points for him tonight, which I feel pretty comfortable with,
Yeah, I do too. I mean, 8+ strikeouts or 8 or more strikeouts and 3 of the last 4 starts. I mean, pitched against really, offenses where obviously they don't usually allow a ton of strikeout upside, but he kind of, put that into play. So I'm not really worried about that with the Royals. I think, he's a pretty safe start.
Mm-hmm.
Volquez on the other side, cheap guy, but I'm not really looking to use him. He's a guy who just really floats with kind of being an average right-hander, a guy who usually is not getting you over 20 DK points. So I think he's just kind of a fade.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not seeing much there.
Rockies and Dodgers next year. Tyler Anderson versus Rich Hill, two lefties. And obviously the Dodgers against lefties aren't that good. Rockies against lefties are really hit and miss. I'm not saying that I'm going to advocate using pitchers here, but I'm not going to make this game a priority as far as my hitting targets go.
What guys, what if I said I liked Rich Hill?
No, I can definitely see Rich Hill being a viable GPP option. As crazy as that sounds in cores.
I think he totally is, man. Obviously been pitching well sort of from that one start really, but I just think this is a pretty good matchup for him, even in Coors. Obviously, Arenado's the looming giant sitting there, but I mean, if he can neutralize Blackman and Cargo for 7K on DK, I might think about it as a tournament SP2. Anderson, I don't think I'm going with, even, with their pseudo righty lineup that they throw out against lefties for the Dodgers. I don't necessarily trust that, but I think Rich Hill is an SP2 option for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. In a tournament sense, I'm certainly okay with that. I mean, he's been very dominant when he's been healthy this year, which you like to see. 0.22 home runs per nine. I mean, that's a great number to have when you're heading into cores. Mixing in a 50% ground ball rate with a 28% strikeout rate. I mean, that's a lot to like there. There's a lot going in his favor. It's obviously just the big monster that is Coors can certainly present the downside always, no matter who you are. So there is some risk, but I do like Hill as a GPP option, especially for that price tag.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we saw Scherzer a few starts ago go into Coors and get chilled, so I'm not against that. But he was a righty, so I think Rich Hill's got a shot. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I definitely do too. I mean, we've seen guys go into Coors and have decent starts this year, so it's not wild. It's not a goose chase. I mean, it's happened.
Right.
Reds and Angels next year. Jared Weaver versus Tim Adelman. Both these guys I'm not really looking to use, even though it isn't a decent ballpark. Although last night, Angel Stadium played like Coors with all those home runs that were going out, but I don't think that'll happen tonight. I'm just kind of staying away from these pitchers. I don't think there's a lot of upside.
The Angels. Oh man, the top three in that lineup are just like they're carrying that lineup. It's unbelievable. So yeah, no, I'm not looking at either of these guys. Obviously, that's a game where I'll be looking to get some exposure to.
Yeah, I think so. With two weak-handed arms, I mean, the value that game brings, I think that kind of ranks using there.
Yeah.
Diamondbacks and Giants next year. Johnny Cueto versus Zach Greinke. Johnny Cueto obviously is a guy who's had a lot of success against the Diamondbacks this year. A reasonable paydown option from Scherzer. At home, I mean, Cueto's been very solid this year. In 3 starts against Arizona, he's been solid, averaging just over 20 DK points. I like Cueto tonight. I think he's a decent option against this heavy right-handed offense.
Yeah. I love Cueto tonight. This is my cash game guy. So I'm firing away with that. I think Greinke's a sort of intriguing tournament guy, but overall, I mean, he's kind of a pay down option. But Cueto's really the guy in this matchup for me. Obviously hasn't been, what we've wanted to see of late in every start, but I think this is a matchup you can really exploit.
Yeah, I mean, Diamondbacks 20th in WOBA against righties, 22.5% strikeout rate. I mean, he's only going to face 2 lefties in that whole lineup, and then the rest is right-handers, and Cueto's been very solid against right-handed pitching this year, as he has kind of throughout his career. In that ballpark, I mean, the one thing you got to worry about, I think, on FanDuel a little bit is the fact that he might not quite get that win or that extra 12 points, which whenever you're paying over 10K, you do kind of want that extra. DraftKings, I'm completely okay with using him in all formats, and even as kind of a step-down option from Scherzer and GPPs too.
Yeah, agreed.
So, but as you mentioned, Greinke, I think we can take a look at him on DraftKings. Obviously, away from home, Greinke's very solid. I don't think he has a ton of upside tonight. I mean, I think 6 innings is doable, maybe 2 earned runs, 6 or 7 strikeouts, which I'll certainly take at that price tag, because I mean, you're getting a quality pitcher there on the road in a giant ballpark. And while the Giants have been kind of coming around of late, I think he's still going to be serviceable at that price.
And generally speaking, this slate, it's going to be tough to probably pin down who the top 1, 2 are. I mean, I think Scherzer is pretty much guaranteed top 3, but other than that, I mean, a challenging but fun slate because there's a lot of quality arms and good spots. So I like this overall.
Yeah, I definitely do too. It's going to be interesting to see kind of who people dive down to as well.
Right.
So that's going to wrap things up with a pitcher nail down. Be sure to check out DailyFantasyCafe.com for all great tools and content.